Welcome to the 7220sports.com kickoff show presented by Wyo Lotto and Rocky Mountain Shirtworks. Cowboys, Aztecs, this might be the last time ever that these two teams meet in this building in Laramie, Wyoming, War Memorial Stadium. 1:30 p.m. today, kickoff, San Diego State, Wyoming. Cowboys looking for a winning streak. Jared Newland.
That'd mean 2 in a row.
1-4, coming off a really impressive, I was thoroughly impressed, and we'll get into it, about Wyoming's 31-19 win over Air Force 2 weeks ago. Of course, we had the bye week sandwiched in between. Wasn't really a bye, however. It was, and I want to ask you what you did during your bye week, but a lot of news. Gained a new member in the Mountain West Conference and an old foe in the UTEP Miners. Tom Berman spoke about realignment and what that means for the Cowboys and how dire things got, and a little bit, he couldn't say a lot, but talked a little bit about what was going on the back end. And this Wyoming roster, Jared, is depleted, to say the least, as they take on the Aztecs today.
It's like a mash unit.
It's pretty bad.
Going back to your comment about San Diego State, most likely last game ever in the war, wouldn't it be great if Gloria Navarez went ahead and just, with the football schedule next year, oh yeah, Wyoming's not coming to San Diego State. San Diego State, you're going back to Laramie. Boise, you're going back to Laramie. CSU, I mean, who cares? Because that game will probably continue anyway. But make those teams travel to the place that's really the reason they're leaving the conference, because they don't want to play in Laramie again.
That's a fantastic point.
Just stick it to them once again.
We talked about it, I think, last time, that if Wyoming somehow goes on a roll here and they get to the very end, they have Washington State on the road at the end, just go, nope, we're not playing that game. Sorry, good luck to you. Not happening, which would be just an unbelievable – I think it'd be an unbelievable PR move. I think everybody in the country would be talking about, wow, Wyoming just gave Washington State the middle finger and said, we're going to get ready for the Mountain West title game.
That would be good.
It'd be so good. What'd you do on your bye week?
Watched a lot of football Saturday. I mean, there was
a nice change of pace. Huh?
Lots of upsets. What a fun day.
Yeah.
It wasn't good for our picks, but
No.
it was still a fun weekend. And then, did a little bit of housework, yard work type stuff, because, of course, the weather was beautiful once again.
Yeah. Isn't this weird?
It is. When it comes, it's gonna.
Yeah, it feels like
it's gonna be like a black curtain coming down. Game over. Let's go.
I feel like it's gonna be really bad. And I don't know if people realize. It's funny. My colleague Alex Taylor from the Cheyenne newspaper and Laramie paper. He's now a top 25 voter now that Ryan Thorburn works for the university, and he's getting the wrath of people and fans from around the country because that stuff's public. And he mentioned last week that he thought Cal had the win over Miami in the bag, so he put Miami back like 9 spots. Next morning, people were furious. He was getting blown up all day. But the point being, we don't get to watch a lot of football. And we used to put so much into that top 25. Like, how are the Cowboys not in the top 25? These people can't watch football. They watch the game they're covering, and then they cheat off everybody else's sheet and go from there. So now I put 0 weight into the top 25.
Well, especially the coaches poll, because it's the SID doing it 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And it's also the national guys who actually can watch some football. And then, you realize when it gets down to the playoff, there's a whole other group of guys who vote for that, because you would think, actually get to watch these teams and really do their homework and break them down. And it's only, 15 to 20, not 40.
Well, we all know it doesn't matter anymore.
No.
It's going to be the top 11 teams, and then the one team from the group of 5 that gets in, and that's the way it is. And
yeah. But these guys, it's just funny to see that, because it's just they don't.
Well, Alex,
they don't watch these.
How about you stay up and watch the end of the game, and don't hit send. And at least until the game's over.
I think he learned his lesson. He almost had to go. He almost had to get rid of his Twitter account this week. So I don't blame him. UTEP. What are your first thoughts when you hear that the Miners are heading to the Mountain West Conference?
Old rivalry-wise, it's great. I I don't want to ever travel to El Paso to watch a game.
And I'm opposite. I can't wait.
No,
I've been to the Sun Bowl, and it's beautiful.
But you wouldn't pay your own dime to go and watch a game there.
I'm kind of a degenerate. I might. I actually like El Paso. It's so unique. I mean, it's like you're in Mexico. I mean, it really feels like you're in Mexico. You can see it when you're downtown. You can see Juarez across the street.
Oh, yeah. The only time I was ever there for a game was when I worked at the University of Tulsa, and basketball season was just starting, and they were a top 15 program with Shea Seals at the time. Mm-hmm. And the SID goes, by the way, I'm sending you with the football team, and football team was horrid, to El Paso. I said, oh, geez, thanks, Don. But went out with the radio guys and Jimmy Trammell from the Tulsa World, and we ended up at a strip club on a gravel road, a gravel parking lot. I for sure thought my life was over.
Welcome, UTEP.
It was a scary deal, and that's my first time really away. This is my first job, and I'm like, am I even supposed to be here? And getting paid peanuts, and what am I doing here? And it was scary.
Yeah,
that's my one experience in El Paso. So I don't know if I ever want to go back.
Yeah, I spent a day with Dana Dimmel down there when I started 7220 Sports. It was so awesome. Dana, I know Wyoming fans have their thoughts on Dana Dimmel, and I did too going into that interview. I went into it with, man, you ripped my heart out. What were you thinking? Why did you go to Houston, you idiot? And then after sitting and talking to him, he's like, hey, man, I was 34 years old or whatever, and they backed up the Brinks truck, and it's hard to say no to that. And he told me, I knew I made a titanic mistake when I went out to the spring game inside the Astrodome, and nobody was there, and nobody cared. And then he built that team only to get fired and have Art Broyles come in and win with his guys. And then Art Broyles ended up parlaying that into a job at Baylor, and the rest. But
why couldn't Vic win with his guys at Wyoming?
No, that's a legit question. And I asked him that. I said, you apparently left the cupboard bare. He actually went to his computer, printed off the roster, and went down the roster. And he's like, does this look bare to you? Malcolm Floyd, Casey Bramlett, Adam Goldberg, Patrick Chuck,
Courtney Barnes.
The list goes on and on and on. And you're like, wow. And then you talk to players from that era, and they go, well, Vic changed every single thing that Dana did. And it worked great, and now we're practicing at 5 a.m. out on the North 40 when it's freezing cold, and we used to practice in the afternoons, and it switched up their entire routine. But what was interesting is sitting in Dana Dimmel's office, we're looking out, and he goes, you see that writing on that rock out there? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I don't know what it says. It's in Spanish, but, that's Mexico. Like, I can see Mexico out my window. How cool is this? Sun Bowl's really cool. I tell you, the thing that was really fun to watch and a really nice change of pace, especially in the cesspool known as social media, UTEP fans are excited as hell to be in the Mountain West, and that was a really nice change of pace to see people. We've seen people who've been dumping on the Mountain West, the CSU, Utah States, Boise State, and San Diego State been doing it forever. To see a team like UTEP and a program like UTEP and their fans go, we finally made it after 2+ decades in the Conference USA. We've always wanted to be in the Mountain West. We finally made it.
Well, for recruiting wise, I think it's more important to be in Central Texas. So a Texas State, a North Texas, a UTSA would benefit the teams in the Mountain West a lot more. Yes, UTEP is in Texas, but it's on the New Mexico border, and it's on the Mexico border, and it's not an easy place to travel to. I mean, it's a metropolitan area. Don't get me wrong, but it's out there on an island.
Yeah.
And it's not great for fans, and it's not going to be great for recruiting wise. But because if you have 8 kids from Central Texas, and you'd say, well, you get to see them every other year, play in your home state. Well, it's still like a 7-hour drive from Central Texas.
Well, I was going to say, people are probably going to go, oh, West Texas, Lubbock's out there, Texas Tech. 5 hours and 37 minutes, the drive from El Paso to Lubbock, and most of that drive you're in New Mexico.
And then Lubbock, but like to San Antonio is another 5 hours or something. It's just crazy.
I did the drive after we left Dimmel. We went to San Antonio, and I remember looking out the window specifically and going, every single thing outside our window looks like it wants to hurt us. There is nothing out there aside from when you get stopped by Border Patrol a couple of times to make sure you don't have anything in your vehicle.
Yep.
So you brought up Texas State. A swing and a miss there. Apparently, Texas State is going to stay in their conference for now. Now the talk is Hawaii becoming that official 8th member with all of their programs coming into the Mountain West Conference, which hasn't been the case. They've been football only. That is about as unsexy as it gets, in my opinion. You think about Wyoming sending their volleyball teams and cross-country teams and all that stuff. You think of soccer, sending all of them to the island to play 1, 2, 3 hour game and get on the plane and come right back.
Yeah, and a lot of times when they do travel over there, they get to go a day in advance or they get to stay a day after. Just, that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
But the state of Hawaii does subsidize travel, and they do today with football. And they would have to, and they do with the Big West right now with the other sports as well. But you're right, it's not sexy, and I don't know why there's such a rush to get that 8th team added right now. They still have one more, essentially 18 months, really, to do it. So they can still think some things out, maybe go after Texas State with another offer, or go after a North Texas or a UTSA. And just, and with a better offer, maybe.
So this is all about TV money in the long run. Does Hawaii offer, is Gloria Nevarez, the Mountain West commissioner, maybe thinking, because right now finding a Hawaii game on TV is next to impossible. Does she think once they're with CBS Sports or whoever the Mountain West is going to be with, that'll be that late night game for gamblers? Honolulu's probably got 1 million people. I don't know. Is it a big deal?
Well, the bad thing is that if they are that last chance saloon, as I've mentioned before, that last game of the night, if it's truly a night game, but that's midnight on the East Coast a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And those folks, it's the only people who are watching are the true degenerates and the ones that are still at a nightclub just glancing up every once in a while and okay, that game is on. It's the last game of the night.
So if they don't have monetary value, it seems to me this would be more of a panic move, and you're worried that other teams aren't going to come. Like, how bad is New Mexico State that you don't go get them instead?
Yeah, they obviously bring nothing to the table TV-wise. Sacramento State, we've all heard about what they've done. They went out and raised $35 million for their NIL. They really want to make the move up, whether it be to the Mountain West or to the Pac-12. Is that attractive? Not really, because it's another Bay Area team. It's south of the Bay Area, but it's just, I don't know.
Well, and they're already saying openly that they're flirting and they want to be in the Pac-12.
But if they're raising that kind of money, I mean, that ranks them in the top 25 NIL-wise right now.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. When I heard that number, I thought, man, how? I don't get it. I don't know. And this kind of is a good segue into Tom Berman talking about the pitch he made for Wyoming is talking about the brand, is what he said. He went to these other schools and obviously to the Pac-12 and other conferences or whoever he talked to. He couldn't get into it too much. But he said really his sales pitch was the brand of Wyoming, that iconic bucking horse steamboat that you see all over the country and people know automatically who you're talking about and who that school represents. And it's our state's logo as well. So it represents everything. He also talked about, there was 23,000 fans crammed into the stadium to watch an 0-4 football team take on Air Force. Yeah, I know it was homecoming and all that stuff, but you're telling me these beautiful afternoons and these beautiful days, people can't find something else to do than come watch an 0-4 team? People care. Colorado State, I'm seeing right now, they opened conference play against San Jose State today. Their secondary market is blowing up because nobody's going to that game because it's going to be 80 degrees and they're not good. So
they're hiking and drinking weedy beer.
Yeah, that's a fact. Berman also talked about, obviously no surprise that San Diego State, Boise State, Fresno State, teams like that wanted out. Same with Colorado State. They talked about the Big 12 forever. Utah State, he admitted, that's the one that made him a, quote, little angry when they decided to jump ship because they thought they had a deal done. They thought they were going to keep it all together. Pac-12, too. Panic move for them, I would say. That has panic written all over it.
I totally agree. And if they still think that they're going to get a TV contract as lucrative as they're stating, I don't know, they're smoking that Colorado wacky tobacco. And if they think that they're going to be considered a P5 conference, they're eating their edibles too, because it's not going to happen. There is no way in hell the Power 4 today, which is probably going to turn into the Power 2 in another 4 years, they're not going to allow it to happen.
Yeah, no. And Tom Berman's pretty much said as much. He said that I think that was kind of his last little barb there at the end, was talking about, here's his quote right here. It was clear for years that these 4 schools that went first, 3 for sure, have been wanting to go and partner with whoever they can to create their own league in a goal of hopefully becoming a Power 5 league, which isn't going to happen, he said. It's Power 4, and it will stay that way. So I get the concern from Wyoming fans. I get the worry, but we did everything within our power to end up in a good place. I feel like we did end up in a good place, but we could be in a better place if we were all together. He did mention a story by Chris Vanini of The Athletic saying, you two conferences need to put your ego aside and merge. Tom said, I completely agree. The ego's completely got in the way. And you mentioned it a little bit too, and this is a factor. It's not the factor, but it is a factor. San Diego State doesn't want to come to Laramie. They write about it. Yeah. Their beat writers write about it all the time. Their football team this week is drinking beet juice, acting like they're going to the other side of the planet, and that's part of it.
Well, watch in the future here that both of these teams do set aside their egos, or these 2 leagues, and come together, because maybe it's the TV execs that say, what are you guys doing? We're not going to pay this one this and this one this. You guys merge. We're going to be able to pay you this.
That's a great point. That's when egos will go aside and people will start listening when you get them in a room. Mediation, if you will.
Yes. But then again, maybe those egos are so high and so big that they all can't fit in the same room.
Oh, could you imagine?
And it's heavily one-sided. We know that.
Yeah.
The other ones will most likely agree to anything just to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But then, do you still have a Gonzaga for basketball only? Do you have a UTEP, or is it just like, nope, only the originals only? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But that's way down the line, and it's probably never going to happen. So,
could you imagine them having to? Could you imagine Boise State and all their arrogance having to crawl back? It'd be,
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't care anymore.
No,
I don't want to play a San Diego State anymore. I don't want to play a Boise anymore.
No, I don't either. I'm completely out on Boise State. I can tell you.
I will miss a little bit of the Fresno, because even though it's a what is there, 800,000 people in that valley or whatever.
Yeah, they care.
But they care. But Fresno State's still more like a Wyoming.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Where Josh Allen grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, CSU, it's going to happen most likely anyway. But I am going to miss the opportunity to actually go to Washington State or an Oregon State on a normal basis.
Sure. Because
those 2 schools are like a Wyoming, like a Utah State, like a Colorado State. And it was going to be fun to actually, go see some new places. But I'm not going there on November 30th. I can guarantee you that.
Hopefully Wyoming isn't either.
And I'm not going to go to Corvallis next year.
Yeah.
If that's who they play, because actually one of those teams would have to come to Wyoming. Well, actually, that agreement, there is no agreement.
And somebody brought that up the other day. There's no agreement there. Who does Pac-12 play next year? They're not calling Gloria Nevarez, I would imagine. And if they do, she's going to go, here's your price tag. We already talked about this.
And it would have to be those 4 schools that left.
Yeah. But they're still in the conference until 2026.
I think Berman already said too that, what are you going to do non-conference wise, everything. And he goes, well, our non-conference is set through 2030. They'll have to buy out a couple most likely, and then they'll just move them down the road.
Which means CSU's going to have to buy them out, because CSU is going to be a new non-conference opponent. Another thing that helped though is they did have 2 to 4 games, I think, coming up against UTEP. So now UTEP will be in the conference, so they will lose those openings and non-conference play. That'll be perfect for Colorado State. He did mention CSU will be back. I did bring up to Tom that, hey, back in the day, you famously said we are never playing BYU again because you were so pissed when they went independent. And obviously, he held his ground for as long as he could, but the other Mountain West schools played immediately, which I never agreed with either. I thought, what are you doing? The Mountain West was filling up 3/4 of their schedule.
Well, I did see a photo of Tom sitting with the CSU AD at the volleyball match the other night. Yeah. It would be great to have a microphone to hear what they were talking about.
Yeah. Oh, man, would it? Yeah. I think that game goes on. It makes too much sense. It's travel. Fans go into both, allegedly. We all know only Wyoming fans go there.
But even if they were to bring 1,000 fans up here, spending money in Laramie and spending money on tickets versus maybe, Air Force probably only had 500 two weeks ago, to be honest with you. It was not a good showing for them, and they usually bring cadets up. They didn't do that. They usually bring their band up. They didn't do that.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad. That really, not that I wanted more Air Force people in the crowd, but it helps the pageantry and everything to it.
But it's just like what Wyoming would be doing too. They're not going to take those extra people down to games if they can save money on their budget, because if their team's 1-4 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that game will go on. I think that's probably safe. But unfortunately, now CSU holds the cards, and I know people's fears are that they'll big-time Wyoming the way that CU big-time CSU and says, no, you can come here. And I tell you, every year, Jared, when the schedule comes out, and I know that it's a year Wyoming's playing in Fort Collins, it's a great one because you always go, all right, cool, there's 7 home games. Every year for me personally as a beat writer following this team, I always think there's 7 games. There's 7 home games no matter what, because I consider Air Force and CSU, that's just a drive and come home. And Wyoming fans travel there like crazy. So really, really want to keep that game. Really want to do everything we can to keep that game. One question that we had to ask for all you people out there who like to bring up the 3 letters that make my head spin is FCS. Tom Berman said, why would we want to go to the FCS? Every FCS program, he says, in the country reached out to the Mountain West Conference. Obviously, they're dying to get here. Why the hell would we be dying to go down there? And he said, absolutely not. We asked him how dire the situation got. Would he have dropped, or would they have found a landing spot? He said absolutely, they would have found an FBS landing spot, and they did receive phone calls.
So with that being said, it must be the Sun Belt.
Could be, yeah.
Conference USA, possibly. Yeah. I doubt the American.
Yeah.
But maybe the MAC would want to expand a little bit, since there was talks about Northern Illinois. And
they're already talking,
about being football only. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? What I would give to be on one of those phone calls, but who knows? On the other side of the break, we will talk about some football, believe it or not. We're already done with our first segment here. We'll recap the Air Force game a little bit and our thoughts on that one, and then San Diego State, who could be paying their last visit today to War Memorial Stadium. Kickoff at 1:30. Game is on CBS Sports Network. See you on the other side of the break. Join the University of Wyoming for the 10th Annual Giving Day, October 23rd to the 24th from noon to noon. Every gift counts, no matter the size. Make your impact at uwyo.edu/givingday. That's uwyo.edu/givingday. Welcome back to the 7220sports.com Kickoff Show, presented in part by Wyo Lotto. When the Pokes win, you win too. Learn more at wyolotto.com. The fans rejoice. Can finally do a buy one, get one 2 weeks ago, Jared. Wyoming Cowboys get off the schneid, knock off Air Force 31-19. Did the Cowboys find their identity finally, in your opinion, Jared?
Not fully. but it was nice to see the offense take more than just one drive a game down the field, and really make a statement. And I really thought the defense played really well. They wrapped up on tackles and so forth. But I have to be honest with you, that is the worst Air Force team I can remember ever watching in my lifetime.
I agree with you, but I would say offensively they are the worst.
True.
Their defense, people act like because Air Force's offense isn't great this year that, I saw people not even giving Wyoming credit for this one, going, Air Force sucks. And their defense they're on the field more than they ever have been. They do have a lot of new faces over there, but they're fast and they're the same old effort. We heard they're the youngest team when I was watching their game against Navy this week. They're the youngest roster in America. That's terrifying to think about what Air Force could look like in 2-3 years when you hear they're the youngest team in football.
And if you're a betting person, I would bet against Air Force the rest of the way out.
Their offense is horrible.
Yeah, New Mexico should win by 2 or 3 touchdowns today.
They're a favorite.
Yeah.
I mean,
by 6.5, I think.
That never happens.
No.
Never. My takeaway from this is I keep thinking to myself, after that North Texas debacle, Jay Savell told us we need to redefine some things. Redefine means a lot of things, but one of the main things it does mean is getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers. That's exactly what happened. Sam Scott, the debate is over. He is the starting running back. They have a ton of injuries right now, so he's the starting running back whether he likes it or not. But 19 carries, 97 yards, really tough yards, touchdown for him. TK King, when you look at the stats, only 2 receptions, 10 yards. But he is such a threat. He also scored a touchdown on the ground. John Michael Gillenborg, 4 catches, 70 yards. He had a couple of big third down catches. Chris Durr Jr., 3 catches, 71 yards. His run after the catch was incredible. To me, one of the great plays in this game, hard to even think about it, feels so long ago, but Caden Anderson coming in on a crucial 3rd and 4 in the 4th quarter because Evan Svoboda's helmet got ripped off, and he gets hammered on the blitz.
Facing a blitz, gets absolutely wrecked, gets a perfect screen pass off to Chris Durr, who follows his blockers down the field for a big gainer. And so Evans' helmet got torn off twice.
Yes.
One caused a broken nose. How in the hell?
Not one flag.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And it had to be reviewed, after the fact too. So those refs should face a penalty, and we've talked about that before. No. At least be suspended for a week so they don't get paid. Because these are part-time jobs for these folks.
Yeah, and they were the kind where when you watched it on, I came home and watched it late that night. They got their fingers under his ear holes and ripped it straight clean off. It wasn't like he just fell off.
And I got into a debate before the game with somebody talking about my dislike for Air Force. And I said they're the dirtiest team in the league.
Yeah.
And there's no question about it. Ask former players. Yep. They do not want to play against this team. He goes, I'm not going to get into a political debate with you. I was like, political?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with politics.
No, you're not going to get out of that.
There was 4 cadets at our tailgate. One's from Cheyenne. Mm-hmm. His dad played at Wyoming. They were all wearing Wyoming gear. They don't even care about their own school.
Well, you mentioned there was only maybe 500 of them in the crowd.
They got to wear civilian clothes, do whatever they wanted, and they were in the Wyoming student section having fun.
Well, this is off topic, but we actually did get to watch some football during the bye week, and I tell you what, that new monstrosity they built at Falcon Stadium is nothing but a shade. It's a shade tree, and that stadium, aside from War Memorial Stadium, is the coldest stadium I've ever been in my life. And now that entire east side is nothing but shade. Well, there's going to be nobody over there. And I read that the cadets don't even have to go to every game anymore.
Really?
Yeah. So that's going to be a cold, barren, empty half of a stadium.
Well, what's also really weird about these new constructions is that there are seats that you can't see the field from.
Yeah,
that's one of them. The Wildcatter Suites did that at War Memorial. I know it's only if it's sold out and people can still stand and move down. That kind of stuff. But why even construct or engineer something like that?
Because it looks terrible because it's always empty.
Yeah.
And it shows up. I was rewatching the 2016 Mountain West title game. Same thing. that place was packed, but empty in the corners.
Yeah.
Something else from this game that really stuck out is I thought the first half, once again, Wyoming got booed off the field for the most part, leaving after the first half. It was 13-7. It looked much the same, nothing going on, no sustained drives aside from the first one, which really was half a field because Air Force couldn't convert a fake punt on their first drive. Wyoming looks really good on that drive and then totally craps the bed again, and you're thinking, oh boy, they've been outscored 52-0 in the third. This, here we go again. It basically was the feeling. But to me, number 17 played his ass off, and he looked like a leader, and he looked like that guy that had all of you out there screaming to replace Andrew Peasley last year. He threw a dart to John Michael Gillenborg on the sideline that only another number 17 could have done in that same spot. And I thought he had some really tough runs. He looked like a leader. He absolutely looked like a leader. He played really well. He found the open guys. His offensive line, which is just bandaged up with baling wire at this point, stood up so well for him in this game. Air Force didn't even record a quarterback hurry in this game, let alone a sack. So they did their job. And he looked really good. And when he had that 17-yard run into the touchdown run to cap this thing, he had the most hideous touchdown dance I've ever seen in my life.
Emotions took over.
But that was a man who was shaking an 800-pound gorilla off his back, and he played his ass off, and he deserved his flowers after this one.
I agree. He played a hell of a game, and hopefully this is just the start of getting that confidence back.
No doubt.
Because we saw it at the Arizona Bowl last year. He led that team to victory on the last drive of the game, and he just hadn't looked like that same person for those first 4 games.
No,
But this 5th game, he did.
He maneuvered around the pocket. After rewatching that game, man, he looked like that guy that you expected.
And the Pokes are going to need that again today because, San Diego State's offense isn't very good, but they do have a couple of guys on defense, and we'll talk about one in particular who is a beast.
Yeah, no doubt. Defensively, you brought it up. Shea Suianoa, he had a whale of a game, just like middle linebackers in Wyoming are known to do against Air Force. 13 tackles, a career high, 3 tackles for loss. Rook Brown, we'll get into the injuries here in a sec. Rook Brown, who was playing nickel/safety, 8 tackles for him, 7 for Ben Florentine, 5 for Sebastian Harsh, including a sack. The one part of this game, I was actually on the elevator heading down to the field at this point, but Jordan Bertinoli gets a sack, stands over Boucher, flexing his muscles. A ref comes up to him, tells him to knock it off. He doesn't. 15-yard penalty. Next thing you know, Air Force is in the end zone. This is a 1-score game, and you're going, uh-oh. A bonehead mistake like that from a 6-year senior is going to cost them this game.
Well, and he was also getting an 800-pound grill off his back because it's really the first game that he played well this season.
Really well, yeah.
But was he looking down at the quarterback, or was he looking at his teammate when he flexed?
The shot was of him from behind.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's still, you see so many celebrations going on now today. Like, what was that one last week where a guy pulled up his shirt? It was a USC Minnesota game.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Minnesota player pulled up his shirt, and they called a flag on it for
like brandishing a weapon?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I was just going to say that. Yep.
I saw the one guy open up a clip on a guy after he tackled him.
And it's and coaches are doing it too.
That's crazy.
It's like, what are you guys doing? But to throw a 15-yard penalty on pulling up your shirt, you think that's what he's doing, but you have no idea for sure. Maybe if he had a tattoo, maybe he was going to show his tattoo off of whatever it is.
Maybe his tattoo said, "I love my mom."
Just as long as it's not a Glock like a former Wyoming basketball player. But anyway.
He didn't have a Glock. He had a couple of Glocks. You can admit it, Jared. This is a safe place because I'm about to admit it too. The penalty on Air Force on the punt, jumping over the shield, I was on the sideline right by where that happened, and I had no clue what the hell that call was or what happened. I had never seen that call in my life.
Definition of the book, to the book, it is a penalty.
Because you can get hurt. The Air Force guy can get hurt doing that.
And it's just like that's why they have the snapper uncovered now, and you can't jump over the crease or the wedge where the snapper is.
Because he'll lift up, and you can go
So that they've taken those plays to where it's a penalty. But it was like, did that really happen? And I had to watch the replay because I didn't see it in real time because your eyes are on the punter, and then of course it automatically goes up into the air to watch where the ball is, and then you're focused on where the defense is for the returner. So I had no idea what that call was, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. That call has not been made very often. And the explanation of it is probably more technical than it needs to be.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, who really set me straight after the game was Troy Calhoun. He said, yeah, that's the definition of you don't do that. And we have preached that forever. That was a bonehead move. And
are you really going to get to it, the ball, by doing it? Maybe less than a 1% chance.
Yeah. Let's get into Cowboys and Aztecs today, 1:30 p.m. kickoff, CBS Sports Network here in War Memorial Stadium. The Cowboys are going to be shorthanded, to say the least. DJ Jones, running back, still out for personal reasons. Harrison Whaley, that injured right knee, still isn't ready to go. DeWine McNeely, he's out with a knee injury for the rest of the year. Sam Scott, like he has the last 2 weeks, will be the starting running back. That's the good news. Jamari Farrell will back him up. Then what? After that, Jay Sawvell says Jake Wilson will be like our third running back. He is a 6'5", 225-pound true freshman who is listed as a tight end, and he was a tight end and wide receiver in high school in Texas.
And you have a 6'5", 245-pound quarterback that is also a running back.
Yeah, so, let's be real. He'll be the third guy.
Yeah, but if that fourth person really does have to come in there, the tight end, who cares? He's a big boy. All he has to do is hold on to the ball. It's like having Caleb Driscoll back there. So,
well, speaking of Caleb Driscoll, he's still out with a thumb injury. The Cowboys will be playing this one without their two starting safeties who combined they both played upward of 800 snaps last year and never came off the field.
I'm blaming EA Sports for these thumb injuries by bringing back College Football 25.
Never thought about
because
that.
There's so many players playing this now that's messing up their thumbs.
Playing themselves, yeah. That's a good point. I never thought of that. Eckler and Isaac White are both out. Eckler has, of course, 2 broken thumbs. Sawvell was hoping he'd be ready to go in this one, but his mobility, can you imagine trying to tackle people, let alone attempt to even pick off a pass? It's not going to happen. Isaac White, I interviewed him this week. I have a story about him on 7220sports.com. He has a foot-ankle issue that obviously the MRI did not come back the way he wanted it to. Cowboys are also going to be without their 2 starting guards. Jack Walsh has a shoulder, Wes King with a knee. Defensive end, Kevin Shoegreen's still out. Cornerback Tyrese Boss is out. Offensive tackle Nate Geiger's out. Same with offensive lineman Luke Sandy. Cowboys almost found themselves in a really bad spot last week when Nafoafia Tulifono went down before that punt late in the fourth quarter. He is the snapper, and his backup is Luke Sandy, who is out. This would have been Rex Johnson moving over from the guard spot to make his first snap on a 4th down.
Can you just name the players that are?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's 2 more to add to the list here. Edge rusher Tice Westland is out, and so is nose tackle Ben Florentine. Ben coming off one of his best games ever last week against Air Force. These injuries are unbelievable. Junior safety Andrew Johnson, he had to get a pin inserted in his thumb this week. During the bye week. He will play. Rook Brown will move from the nickel to the safety spot next to Andrew Johnson. And Caleb Merritt, a former wide receiver and cornerback, will now slide into Brown's vacated spot, backing up Malik Singleton at the nickelback spot. Devon Harris is back. Big return for him. From what I hear, extensive elbow damage against Arizona State in that first game that has cost him every game since. He should be making his return, the 6-year senior from Minnesota. Caleb Cooley as well, the kick return, punt return guy for the Cowboys. He should be back. He suffered an ankle injury against Idaho. Jay Sawvell said probably Utah State is when you can expect the clean bill of health to come back for a lot of these guys. That's October 26th. Cowboys obviously have a couple games in between then and now.
And I can see possibly that's when Harrison Whaley steps on the field too, because we all saw what Boise State did to Utah State's rush defense.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to make comparisons, but Harrison Whaley is kind of like an Ashton Gente type runner
Yeah.
where he runs with power.
Yep.
And he's pissed off.
Yeah. Boy, Ashton Genty's good. When I walked in the office today, I looked at this Heisman thing that Boise State sent me.
Got a little validity to it now, doesn't it?
It does, because when I first got it, I went, yeah, right. I mean, this is cool. They're doing this for Ashton and all that, but, real cool. It's kind of like when Wyoming had the push for Marcus Harris.
The Heisman Marcus.
Yeah, and I still have my vote yes Heisman shirt for Marcus Harris, and it was cool. We all knew it was a pipe dream, but we also, maybe at the time, I know I kind of did, I thought it was probably a pipe dream to win the Biletnikoff. He was going up against Ray Caruth and Ike Hilliard. That's Colorado and Florida.
But that campaign may have, obviously his play on the field, but that campaign may have assisted in getting that Biletnikoff too.
No question. So, Ashton Genty, man, he's a dude. Let's transition here to transition's probably not a good word this week. Let's move on to San Diego State and Wyoming kicking off today at 1:30. This could be the Aztecs' last time here. Jay Savella he's been here for 5 years now. He's never even coached against San Diego State, but he has coached against Sean Lewis, and I think you guys might remember that one. He was the head coach for the Kent State Golden Flashes back in the 2021 famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Cover your ears. That team put up 656 yards of total offense, 337 passing, 319 rushing. Talk about balance. That team was really good. Dustin Crum, 17 of 27, 316 yards and 4 touchdowns. Marquez Cooper, their lead running back that day in Boise, 24 carries, 125 yards. Bad news, he has followed his former coach to Montezuma Mesa, and he is in the backfield today for the San Diego State Aztecs.
It seems like games like that bowl game, though, you can tell from the very beginning, it's like nobody's going to stop each other. They're going to have to stop themselves, and the last team that has the ball is most likely going to win.
Well, Levi Williams was all of 9 of 11 for 127 yards and a touchdown. However, he rushed the ball 16 times for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. So, game ball for Mr. Levi Williams.
Did Sean bring his defensive coordinator with him to San Diego?
Good question. San Diego State's 2-3 on the year. They had a narrow win last week against Hawaii. You already mentioned him, Trey White, unbelievable edge rusher for the Aztecs. He had 3 sacks on Braden Shager in that one. He also had a tackle for loss. He was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Week. This was not a one-off, folks. He has 9 sacks, which ties him for the nation's lead through 5 games. His 12 tackles for loss is the most, and I wrote about it last night. Good luck, Jake Davies. Thoughts and prayers, Caden Barnett. You have your hands full this afternoon.
We've talked about having folks to stay in to chip these guys. They're going to have somebody stay in the entire time, not just chipping.
Yeah.
And who does he remind you of, this Trey White?
I hate to go this far, but he kind of looks like he looks like Sebastian Harsh to me, but he kind of plays like a Von Miller to me.
I was going to say Mitch Donahue.
Really? Yeah, that's because good comparison.
Because Mitch Donahue, if you look at his stats, I want to say he had 20 sacks.
He did
in 1 year.
Yep.
So halfway through, 9.5 sacks.
I think he finished with his jersey number 49 for his career.
So you think about what he's doing halfway through the season, and he hasn't played really any major opponents by any means. But if Wyoming can hold him to maybe, say, 3 hurries and 1 sack, and Evan's a big enough guy to where he could probably shed him a couple of times, hopefully, that would bode well for Wyoming. Now, if this guy goes off like he did last week against Hawaii, I think it was 2 plays in a row where Hawaii was driving, and he took them totally out of the game.
Yeah, he's a special player, and it's weird. He's been on that roster for 2 years, and he hasn't registered even a tackle for loss in that time, let alone a sack. So they moved him from outside linebacker to the edge, and it's paying major dividends early here.
Does he have his hand in the dirt, or does he stand?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
He's kind of a hybrid kind of cat. He's really good. Their defense is allowing only 22.4 points per game, 376 yards total. That's 162 on the ground, 213 through the air. They will be without a starting linebacker and Owen Chambliss. That helps. They also have some injuries across their offensive front. Sean Lewis, of course, in his first year, he was at Kent State. Then he took the offensive coordinator job under Deion Sanders at CU last year. Got demoted 3-4 games into the year, and obviously took this job. Another guy, Danny O'Neill, their starting quarterback today. He was the Mountain West Freshman of the Week last week, and he was originally a Colorado commit, and he had committed to Deion Sanders and Sean Lewis when he was in Boulder. He decided, however, to follow him to Montezuma Mesa. 24 of 33 last week against Hawaii, 224 yards and a touchdown. Big win for the Aztecs. They were on a 3-game losing skid, and it was a tough game. They got hit pretty hard by Cal, but they lost 21-0 to Oregon State. That's Danny O'Neill's only turnover so far as an 18-year-old, which is really impressive. He turned the ball over inside the 2-yard line on the Aztecs' best scoring opportunity of the day in a 21-0 loss to Oregon State. They lost a heartbreaker at Central Michigan, missed a few field goals in that game, losing Mount Pleasant, but got back on the winning side of things last week. They are also 1-0 in Mountain West play. This Danny O'Neill kid, he's only 6 foot tall, but he is he's a player, man. He threw for 8,000 yards in high school, almost 100 touchdowns, ran for, I think, 1,500 more yards. So he's a player.
I would like to hear from Sean Lewis what actually happened at CU and how much of a debacle that whole thing is. I mean, You've read, and I know we're getting off a little bit here, but you read about and hear about stuff, and it's just crazy what goes on in that building.
Absolutely. Well, we have actually ran out of time here. This is crazy. If you can blow through the games real fast, we can end it on that note.
Well, Air Force at New Mexico, Washington State at Fresno State, Oregon State at Nevada, and Boise State at Hawaii, all still to go today.
Cowboys win today, Jared.
Yes, I have 23-16, I believe.
Yeah.
And you had 24-17.
Something like that. Yep. I think the Cowboys win. This is a 2-game streak. They go into San Jose next week feeling really good, and then a week after that, they get hopefully a lot of their horses back. This has been the 7220sports.com Kickoff Show presented by Wild Lotto and Rocky Mountain Shirtworks. Thank you for joining us. For Jared Newland, I'm Cody Tucker. Stay tuned for Wyoming football next, right here on KOWB.
Mon Gott, mon Sohn, mon Verfeuer.